Okay, the meeting will please come to order. Barbara, please call the roll.
Levine and Noonan present.
Thank you. This proceeding is broadcast on Channel 35. The exact broadcast times can be found by contacting Channel 35. I have no opening remarks. Madam General Manager, do you?
Not today, sir. Thank you.
Do any commissioners have comments on agendized items and or requests relating to departmental operations? No? No. Pretty speedy. Public comments. We have 2 cards.
Okay, the first speaker is Mark Keller, and please limit your comments to 2 minutes. Thank you.
Mr. President, board members, General Manager Marcy Edwards, congratulations on your promotion. We're very glad to have you there. I am Mark Keller, retired electrical mechanic, station maintenance supervisor. I live in the Alabama hills of Lone Pine for the last 37 years. I worked in the valley for 16 years, 8 years as electrical mechanic, 8 years as senior electrical mechanic. I have talked to my neighbors and my friends in Independence, and we have no problem with the solar project opposite Manzanar on the DWP property. I have told this to my county supervisor, Matt Kingsley, and the Inyo County Planning Director. Don't let the Flatlanders, special interest people in LA, deter the building of this much-needed project. That's my first subject. My second subject is the dust mitigation in the Owens Valley. I see that a 95% improvement has been accomplished by the DWP Owens Lake Mitigation Program. I installed power to some of the monitoring equipment back in the 90s. When you go, you do no longer get a smell of rotten eggs as you drive 395 along the Owens Lake. I feel it is now Mother Nature's time to step forward and take care of the remaining dust that arrives every now and then. So thank you, and I appreciate all that you've done for us in the Owens Valley. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The next speaker is Dr. Tom Williams.
Dr. Tom Williams, Sierra Club, LA 32 Neighborhood Council, and a Flatlander, but I live on a hill. However, we have an organization here, DWP. How many people are in it? Over 9,000. We have a budget of over $6 billion a year, revenues and such. And there's one page in the DWP website that says organization chart. However, it's not linked to anything. There is no current organization chart for this organization. So how can you be budgeting? How can you assign staff? How can you have new general manager when nobody can tell me, let's say at least 7 levels, because it's fairly complicated, who's on first? Who's on second? Which department reports to which manager? Do all? In Mongolia, I actually had an organization chart for the Ministry of Nature and Environment. It was one chief, everybody else was Indians, because we all had to report to the Minister of Nature and Environment. Where is the organization chart for the Department of Water and Power down to at least some sort of managerial level? Because the one place on the website where it's actually identified, organization chart, labor relations, it's not linked to anything. And if you do a search, you cannot find the organization chart. So please provide on the web an organization chart at whatever level, by position, no names required, for this organization that you're a board for. Thank you.
Thank you. Comments from ratepayer advocate on agendized items?
I will have brief comments at the item for items 13 and 16, and also comments on 18 and 19.
Okay, we'll await those. Okay, in light of the fact that, well, let's see, we only have, three of the four sitting commissioners can vote on the minutes. So let's take that one first. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the May 20th special meeting?
So moved.
Second, those in favor? Aye. They're approved. Okay, on the consent agenda, items 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, does any commissioner wish to remove any of those items? No.
We have a speaker card on 9.
Okay, speaker card on 9. Well, let's do this. Let's vote on 7, 8, 10, and 11, and then we'll do 9 in light of the speaker card. Is there a motion to approve items 7, 8, 10, and 11?
So moved.
Second, those in favor?
Aye.
They are approved. Speaker on matter 9.
Okay, the speaker is Dr. Tom Williams.
Is this for item 9?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Let me make sure. Okay. Dr. Tom Williams, LA 32 Neighborhood Council and Sierra Club Water Committee. Sierra Club, Angeles chapter, is a strong supporter of remediating the San Fernando Valley, and maybe a few others after we get the valley done. However, is there a schedule for this? Where is the schedule for completion of the remediation for the San Fernando Valley? I presume the east side only, because we've heard a lot about it. We're a member of the Recycled Water Advisory Group. We're all involved in it, but we're trying to find out, is there a time certain, a date certain, that we can get back to full and adequate use of the San Fernando Valley groundwater supply? So, add some more money to it. But is this just another, I say, deep, black, dark hole into which we will continue pushing money, somewhat like the Owens Valley? So we have two valleys, Owens and here. So please give us a date or a schedule or a deadline for completion of the remediation of the San Fernando Valley. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to comment on item number 9? Is there a motion?
I'll move.
Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
It's approved. Okay, we go to the regular agenda, item number 12. Bid 556 for California Air Resources Board diesel fuel, unleaded California reformulated gasoline, and commercial airline Jet A fuel.
Come on, Tom Bassett and Mike Sullivan from our service managers are one to negotiate this contract, and Gwen's also here to answer the question.
Gentlemen and lady.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Tom Patzloff, Fleet Services.
Michael Sullivan, Fleet Services.
Gwen Williams, Supply Chain Service.
So this is a contract for the department's fuel for unleaded, diesel, and jet. It supplies fuel throughout the infrastructure of the department, excluding the Utah. It was competitively bid. It's worth, on the average, we spend about $12 million a year on this. So it's got provisions in there to assist during disasters, fluctuations in the market, unforeseen or unanticipated jobs, regulated things that we're not aware of right now. So we put a lot of safeguards in here to handle all the issues that go along with dealing with fuel. Is there any questions or concerns?
Commissioners have questions or comments? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second? Those in favor? Aye. It's approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a speaker card on item 13, which is energy cost adjustment expenditures for the 12-month period commencing July 1st, 2014.
Okay, the speaker is Dr. Tom Williams.
Dr. Tom Williams, Sierra Club, LA 32 Neighborhood Council. Question. By the way, since my houses only consume 4 kilowatt hours per day with 2 people, 900 square foot, this doesn't have much impact. But one of the things I do get concerned about is when it says prior under recovery of costs. Front page, second slide. What does that mean? How much was it? But it was balanced offset by lower renewables. What sort of game's going on there? How much was the prior under recovery of costs? Was it only for power? I would presume. But it's an issue that came out. But again, I don't have much skin in this game. So, thank you.
Who will present item 13?
Mr. Chairman, Phil Leiber, I will present. Reggie, if you could cue up the presentation. So every quarter we come to the board for adjustments in our energy cost adjustment factor. And I have just a few slides to go through to overview the changes that are taking place in the upcoming quarter. The ECAF recovers the costs for the department's fuel, purchase power, including both fossil and renewable, and energy efficiency expenditures. These are essential costs that are largely beyond the short-term control of the department, and they are intended to be recovered through this quarterly pass-through charge. The ECAF recovers about 45% of the overall revenue requirement of the department. That's the outlook for the next fiscal year. What we are seeing is the need for a temporary increase in the ECAF of about 0.59 cents per kilowatt hour from the current quarter. That would equate to about $2.95 per month for the typical residential customer. As I'll show on the following charts, we expect that about a third of that will go away in the following quarter, so it's in one sense temporary. The causes for this adjustment are at least 4 factors that are noted here. One is the earlier acquisition of replacement power, the Apex generating station that is to supplant and replace Navajo when that is disposed of. The second factor is higher natural gas and emission costs. Natural gas costs are about a third higher than we had counted on in our 2-year rate case starting in fall of 2012, and I'll show a chart on that factor. We're also incurring higher emissions costs because of the low hydro generation that we and other utilities across the state have seen. We've had to procure more emissions allowances at a higher cost than was anticipated. And then we get to this factor about prior under recovery of costs. What is that? All of these costs are a 12-month look ahead, so there is a forecast involved. The actual costs will be what they are, and there's a true-up mechanism. When we did this look ahead about a year ago, we were off a bit. The actual costs turned out to be higher, and now we need to recover some of those costs prospectively. There's one good element in all of this, which is lower renewable energy costs are helping to relieve some of the pressure here. We had some timing differences. We had anticipated spending money on projects that came in a bit later, so that's just a temporary difference. But the good news is the overall cost of these projects is significantly lower than we had been counting on in the past. Where are these costs coming from, and where do they fit in our overall rate structure? So this chart shows the various components that make up the DWP power system rate structure. What we're talking about here are the energy cost adjustment factors. There's a total of about 4 charges: variable energy adjustment, variable renewable portfolio standard energy adjustment, and the capped renewable portfolio standard energy adjustment. A lot of acronyms here. Things were broken out to provide greater transparency for those who wanted to track exactly where the money was going. What's the outlook? Well, we do see an increase from the current quarter going into the 3-month period starting July through September. That is about 0.59 cents per kilowatt hour. As can be noted, the forecast for the following quarter is that things will decrease. So about a third of the overall increase we expect to be reversed in that following quarter. This is the overall ECAF that consists of all those components, what's happening in each of the areas. Number one, again, renewable energy costs are quite a bit lower than anticipated. Again, a big portion of that is timing. We will be coming to the board with various solar projects, including some at this meeting. Those costs are being incurred a little bit later than we had anticipated. But the biggest factor creating upward pressure on the ECAF is natural gas costs. This middle column are the gas costs per million BTU that we anticipated about 2 years ago, just short of $4. What we're actually seeing for this upcoming period is a much higher anticipated gas cost, about 33% higher, at just over $5.20. So that is a significant factor causing pressure on rates. That is a summary of what's happening, and with that we would ask for your approval for the forecasted expenditures that will contribute to the calculation of these rates.
On that chart where you saw the price go up and then you expect a decrease, why do you expect the decrease that you discussed?
There are some timing issues involved in this. So one of the factors was the under recovery of prior period costs. Those will largely be amortized during this quarter. There's some fairly complex calculations involved. Just some of the results are shown in the appendix. But overall, the expectation is that these costs are going to continue to increase in the years ahead. But what we saw in this quarter was just kind of a temporary spike.
I had one question.
Commissioner Funderburk?
Just because it's in the news, one of the things we've tried to do is to cut our use of coal, and it's in the news on the administration's rules on coal. Are we asking for an increase of enough? Is all I'm saying, because of the coal and Navajo and everything associated with that.
For this ECAF adjustment, it's the projection for the next 12 months. We don't expect a change related to our coal operation in the next 12 months. We continue to integrate the Apex plant in and continue to work on finalizing those negotiations for the Navajo. But at this point in time, for this annual adjustment, we don't see an impact related to the coal directly here. Those will come later. They're projected in our integrated resource plan and the projection of future rates.
Great. Thank you.
Other questions, comments? Dr. Pickle?
The financial organization worked with us and presented this material, reviewed it thoroughly with us. We're on board with this, but we have to point out one rate impact. Because of the volatility, particularly of natural gas prices, because of the cold winter last year, and gas prices are the second most volatile traded commodity. Electricity is first. We will continue to see volatility like this, but the year-on-year increase on total rates is 0.7 cents from third quarter of last year to third quarter of this year, and 0.7 cents is a 5% increase in the total rate because of these energy price changes.
Did you have a comment?
Our calculations do show that year over year, the adjustment related to ECAF is just short of 5%. There are no rate increases that are discretionary that are being proposed, so there's no base rate increase next year. There's no increase in the reliability cost adjustment factor, but the uncontrollable, unavoidable costs are in our existing rate structure items that do need to be passed through.
And this was agreed. This process was documented thoroughly in the last rate case.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's approved. Item 14, authorization to sell up to $200 million of power system revenue bonds under resolution numbers 4878 and 4879.
Again, Phil Leiber, I'll be presenting on this one. This is the type of item financial services very much enjoys bringing to the board. A lot of the meetings we have to spend money. This is one where we get to save money. Overall, we can, by moving forward with this bond refunding transaction, bring down our debt service costs by just short of $29 million. On a present value basis, we'll save just short of $26 million. That's well above the threshold for refundings that we like to see of about 5% of principal and interest. By moving forward with this, we will save about 11.5% of the otherwise scheduled debt service payments. These bonds were originally issued in 2005 when interest rates were higher. We can refinance this debt taking advantage of today's very low interest costs. We've done a number of these transactions in the past few years, and the good news is there's still a few of them out there that when timing permits, when we're able to refinance under the bond covenants, we can bring these forward and do so.
Terrific. Questions, comments? Congratulations. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
It's approved. On item number 15, we have 6 speaker cards. Item 15 being amendment number 1 to open access transmission tariff agreement to BP 01017. Barbara, you want to call the speakers?
Okay. Please limit your comments to 2 minutes. The first speaker is Stephen Linz.
Mr. President, members of the Commission, my name is Steve Linz. I am Chief Assistant General Manager at Glendale Water and Power. Glendale is a neighbor and long-term transmission customer of LADWP, and I'm here today to ask you to table the resolution before you to increase LA's transmission tariff rates. Glendale needs to get more information on this tariff so that we can figure out why rates that may be charged under this tariff are about 2,000% higher than the rate we pay under our current contracts. I have 3 points. First, rates under LA's transmission tariff are very important to us. Glendale uses this transmission service to deliver electricity to our residents and businesses in Glendale. Our current rates under our contracts is about 46 cents per kilowatt month. Under the tariff that's before you today, transmission for one-way service is about 10 times that, and transmission service for two-way service is $8.76 per kilowatt month, or 2,000%, just about 20 times our current contracts. Second, we don't really know what a reasonable rate is. We don't expect it to be what it is under our legacy contracts, but staff's not giving us what we need to figure out whether or not those rates are reasonable. In addition, they won't even tell us why our term of service is limited to 3 years, when you'll see on today's agenda you're approving solar agreements and other long-term contracts where LA is going to use that same transmission service to bring electricity home to their ratepayers over decades. Finally, the resolution before you cites the legal standard for LA's tariff, which basically says that LA has to treat us like they treat themselves. But the tariff doesn't meet that standard. As I mentioned, you'll see the discrimination is clear. You've got all sorts of items on your agenda today where LA is asking you to authorize long-term solar and other renewable agreements that they're going to deliver over that same transmission for decades. And we've got 3-year service. Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Christine Godinez.
Good morning, Mr. President, members of the Commission. My name is Christine Godinez. I'm Principal Assistant City Attorney for Glendale Water and Power. I'm here today for 2 reasons. First, to talk to you about the serious flaws in the process that preceded the tariff amendment that you're asked to be approving today. And second, to urge you to table this resolution to allow your staff and the management of your department to work with the City of Glendale and its transmission customers and Glendale as a municipal utility. This would give the parties the opportunity to settle their differences and to discuss the tariff before it's brought before this board as a fait accompli. First, I want to talk to you about the process, or I should say the absence of the process that preceded this discussion today. Glendale and LA's other transmission customers were never permitted a meaningful exchange of information about the tariff you're being asked to approve. Last August, LA first posted the revisions to the open access transmission tariff. Yet LA didn't notify Glendale and its transmission customers for 2 weeks. When we found out about it, we posed a series of questions to LA, and we were told that if we wanted to get records, we'd need to submit that on a form, and that we must submit our questions in writing. We had submitted joint questions from Glendale and Burbank. So Glendale resubmitted questions on September 27th and October 4th, but didn't get answers to those questions until November 15th, which is the one and only stakeholder meeting that was held. Thereafter, Glendale submitted additional questions on November 20th, and LA responded to some of those questions on December 2nd. And we only found out recently that in the last week of December, on December 30th, the department further amended its tariff proposal. We never received any direct notice of those changes, and only 1 week was given, 1 week which included the New Year's holiday, within which to respond. And all of this put Glendale in the very uncomfortable situation of needing to submit a Public Records Act request. By submitting the resolution to the board without even discussing the questions face-to-face with Glendale, the department has short-circuited the stakeholder process that was promised to us. Thank you.
The next speaker is Harvey Rutter.
Good morning, President Levine, Commissioners. I'm Harvey Ryder. I'm a regulatory counsel in Washington, D.C. for the City of Glendale. I'm here to talk about whether the amendments to the department's tariff, whether its statement that those amendments provide transmission service at rates and on terms that are comparable to what it provides itself is accurate for its use of the same transmission service. I'm here to say that statement isn't accurate. Ms. Godinez has just discussed many of the questions Glendale has about the tariff amendment remain unanswered. But what we do know and can say is that the tariff doesn't meet its own standards. Let me talk about the first critical deficiency. It's one that you've already heard from our speakers about, and that is, as Mr. Lins pointed out, that the discriminatory absence of long-term transmission service for Glendale when LA clearly provides that to itself. Under the tariff, Glendale's service is limited to a period of 3 years, but LA enters into long-term agreements to purchase solar power. As Mr. Lins mentioned, there are 3 of those agreements before you right after this agenda item. That power can't be delivered on LA's system without long-term commitments from LA to itself. But Glendale has the same need to purchase renewable resources, the same mandates to meet, and it can't risk signing a long-term deal for solar power if it can't be assured that transmission from the city is available for a long term. And it isn't. It has been in the past, but it isn't now. The transmission rates proposed are also a problem. We know, again, we don't know everything about them, but we know that they include the costs of transmission facilities that LA has admitted to Glendale we don't have a right to use. So if we know nothing else, that's pretty strong evidence that the rates included in LA's proposal are too high. Finally, while LA states in the resolution before you that it is voluntarily offering Glendale service comparable to what it provides itself, it isn't truly voluntary. The federal law already applies this comparability standard to municipal utilities. For the same reasons urged by Mr. Linz and Ms. Godinez, I ask you to table the resolution and send it back to the department to have meaningful discussions with its ratepayers, with its fellow municipalities, in the hope that an agreement could be reached to come back to you in the future. I want to thank you for your time, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
The next speaker is Frederick Fletcher.
My name is Frederick Fletcher. I'm Assistant General Manager at Burbank Water and Power. I'm here today on behalf of the City of Burbank to express our deep concerns regarding the proposed tariff and the tariff process. With me are representatives from Burbank, the Burbank City Attorney's Office, and Burbank Legal Counsel from Washington, D.C. I will address why we are here. Chris Chang from our City Attorney's Office will address the problems we have with the process, and John Stickman from Duncan and Allen, Washington, D.C. will address the many problems we have with the proposed tariff. Hopefully, our presentations you will agree with, and the proposed tariffs will be sent back to the staff for further development with the stakeholder process and alignment with FERC practices. As I'm sure you're aware, it's very unusual for us to be before you to talk about something with our fellow utilities. But Burbank's system is located solely within the LA system. We don't have very many options. It's our only practical one. Burbank has to rely on LADWP. It's important to Burbank that the LADWP rates are aligned with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission's practices relative to rate making, that it recognizes our jointly owned assets, as well as being non-discriminatory and fair. We would like to be able to review the cost of service, ask questions, have our questions answered, and be assured that the rates in the end are fair to both LA and its customers. Therefore, I ask that you table the resolution and require the department to take the time to address our concerns so that the tariff and associated rates are good for both Burbank and its municipal customers. Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Christopher Chang.
Good afternoon, Mr. President and board and members of the board. My name is Christopher Chuang. I'm a senior assistant city attorney at the City of Burbank. LADWP has provided only one stakeholder meeting on November 15, 2013, for stakeholders to raise any concerns on the tariff. At this meeting, LADWP told us there would be no subsequent forums to discuss the tariff other than here at the LADWP Board of Commissioners meeting. We have sent letters to LADWP requesting that our respective staffs work through these issues, but they have refused to do so. This is the reason why we're here today. The tariff is a highly technical document that cannot be understood through a single set of questions. Moreover, LADWP provided a number of non-responsive or incomplete answers to our questions. The last time LADWP adopted a tariff was back in 2002. So we feel that LADWP should take the time to address these very significant concerns to ensure that the tariff complies with federal laws. The tariff will be subject to FERC jurisdiction if it fails to conform to federal laws. We believe it is in everyone's interest that LADWP adopt a process that is consistent with federal policy and established practices. Under federal law, there is a process that all transmission providers, including LADWP, must follow when it increases its rates or changes its tariffs. This includes providing stakeholders a meaningful iterative process that involves more than an exchange of one set of questions. Unfortunately, the stakeholder process thus far has fallen short of customary industry practices and FERC policies. I'm running out of time, but I would like to leave you with one question. Would the board object to LADWP being subject to a tariff under conditions like this, where LADWP staff was given only one opportunity to voice their concerns, and even when they did so, these concerns were ignored. We'd be happy to share a list of sample questions that we did not get answers to and answer any other questions. Thank you.
The next speaker is John Stickman.
Good afternoon. My name is John Stickman. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Duncan and Allen. I'm a FERC practicing attorney. I'm here because we have grave concerns about the tariff as it's written. As you've heard, the tariff rates are unlawful because they include costs for certain facilities that tariff customers can never use, haven't used, will never be able to use. Besides violating the long-held rate-making principle of cost causation, the inclusion of these costs violates federal law, which requires LADWP to provide its tariff customers with transmission service of the same quality and type and at the same rates as it provides and charges for itself. This preferential treatment does not end with tariff rates. As you've heard, the tariff also discriminates against customers by allowing us to only purchase power for up to 3 years. Other entities are allowed to purchase for 10 years. That's per se on its face discriminatory. Under Section 211A of the Federal Power Act, Los Angeles would have to answer to that, and the tariff would have to be amended to address that. In addition, the tariff wouldn't withstand review because because of the way it strays significantly away from the pro forma tariff and the associated directives. While I don't have time to give you all the detail as to these very technical terms, what I can suffice it to say is that when you dig into the detail of these individual issues, the cost of service, for example, relies on different test years. It uses test years at will. There's no consistency there. The cost of service ignores certain co-owned facilities where Burbank and Glendale pay for those facilities. So in a sense, we're paying twice, once under our existing contract and once under the OAT. The tariff also includes incremental rather than embedded costs. This is a simple rate-making standard that you wouldn't see in any other instance. I, as a FERC practitioner, represent many entities that have OATs, very similar to Los Angeles. If I was presented with this OAT, I would tell them immediately to change it. I would tell them to go to their stakeholder process and make sure that these problems are fixed now, because when it gets to FERC, it will fail. If you have any questions, please, I'm prepared to answer those, and we can follow up with any of our concerns in writing if that would be helpful. Thank you.
Mr. Howard?
Well, we've heard a number of things. Let me see if I can go through them. The OAT is the transmission tariff. As indicated, the department follows the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission guidelines as to the OAT. We're not FERC jurisdictional, but we have a comparability requirement, and so we follow that. In 2002, we developed the first OAT for LADWP. It hasn't been updated since. The exercise that was taken on was to update that and then put in place a process where we would look at it annually and bring adjustments. So it's the rate that we charge for excess transmission, excess only. We're not in the business to be a transmission provider. California ISO does that, but we are required and choose to provide our excess transmission when it's available to any party. But we build, design, operate our system for the benefits of our native load requirements. So our ratepayers, that's the first and foremost that we look to serve. So one of the things I'd like to characterize is the renewable projects that are before you today, those projects that interconnect to our transmission system are in a queue. So there's a queuing for purposes of being able to interconnect, and they're being to serve our native load. So I think there's a mischaracterization of how we're proposing to use the transmission going forward. It is for our purposes. We brought in, because we haven't done this in over 10 years, we brought in Van S. Feldman as the FERC counsel throughout this process. They have been involved from the very beginning. We brought in a third-party entity that their specialty happens to be doing rate making for transmission tariffs. They helped develop with our financial services organization, with the power system, the rate structure going forward. We did have a stakeholder process. You'll hear more about that as well that we went through. But some of the activity that came through the process is we went through each one of the schedules, looked at new schedules. We looked at the comparability. We looked at other OATs for other municipal utilities or jurisdictional utilities as well, determine best practices. So we incorporated that in. But again, we're just amending an existing OAT structure. We bring in about 23 to 25 million annually under our OAT. So that is incremental usage of the infrastructure. It's not a substantial amount of money, but it is incremental to that. The cities of Glendale and Burbank, since 2002, I don't think have ever utilized the OAT. I don't think they've ever taken a service under the existing OAT. Their concerns and their reason for being here today is a little different than the OAT itself, but there's a concern that in the future they will be subject to the OAT cost. The joint transmission system. So we have projects that we jointly own. LA might operate that project. Glendale and Burbank might own a portion of that. They control the operations of their portion. They control what they put through. They have a quantity of energy they can flow because they own part of it. What we're talking about in some cases here is if they want incremental services outside of just moving their power that would now be charged under this process. So they're confusing a few things here. There's a difference between a balancing authority agreement and what's in the OAT. The OAT are charges for services. You use the service, you pay for the service. It's a cost of service. It's really nothing more. If they don't use the service, they don't pay for the service. The results...
Can I just ask you a quick question about that? A point that a number of them raised was the 3-year contract and how that doesn't give them the ability to rely on the ongoing availability of whatever it is that we're providing enough to be able to make long-term contracts based on that. Can you address that?
I certainly can. So due to a fair and equitable standard requirement, we needed an OAT that could work for anybody, whether it's a public utility that's tax exempt or a private utility or a marketing entity. The majority of the transmission users are marketing entities, those that are taking advantage of prices, buying low-cost hydro in the Pacific Northwest and selling it into New Mexico or Arizona and using our transmission path to help do that transaction. So they're a taxable entity. The vast majority of our system has all been built using tax-exempt money. There are limitations, and there are federal limitations from the IRS as to our ability to use our assets for a taxable entity. So private use issues. The 3-year rule was developed in conjunction with our bond counsel and our FERC and our city attorney to address that we weren't building these systems and using these systems for taxable entities to have long-term rights to use them. So a 3-year window says anybody can use it for 3 years. At the end of 3 years, if nobody else wants to use it and you want to use it again for the next 3, you can do that. But what you can't do is rely on a 20-year period if you're a taxable entity when it's been funded using tax-exempt money. Remember, again, we built these for purposes of meeting our native load, not for purposes of offering transmission services to other entities. And so what they're claiming, it's an accurate reflection within this OAT amendment, is a 3-year rule. Every 3 years terminates, they have to reapply to use it for an additional 3 years. It wasn't meant specifically for their purposes, but it deals with our tax-exempt status, because otherwise our projects we could lose the tax-exempt status on our projects, which will cost our ratepayers a substantial amount of money. I hope I addressed your question there.
But they're not a taxable entity either.
Correct. But if I offered it to them, I would basically have to offer it to all, because I can't discriminate on who I offer excess transmission to. Under the results of the rates on the for large customers, those large entities that move a lot of energy, the revenue impact, the rates went down 3.14%. For medium customers, they went down 6.53%. For the smaller users, it went down 15%. For transmission and ancillary services, the revenue went down 3.38%. So the results were a reduction in cost, and that was somewhat expected because the cost of our transmission system is getting older. It's been amortized. Some of it's been paid for. This is a true cost of service. So our cost went down from our customers that use this service. So today, you heard from two entities that really are not users of this service today. But we have a number of customers that are users. None of them are here today, but none of them had a concern or a complaint and actually were supportive of the changes that are being proposed.
Can I question you about that as well? How many entities currently use our service?
Do we have?
Yes, long term, so transmission customer, we have about 2, and short term, we have about 13.
So there are about 15 entities that are using it.
As of today.
Burbank and Glendale are not.
No, they're not using
And how do those 15 entities feel about this proposal?
No objection.
No objection.
Yes.
Okay.
So I think our commitment to the Commission is we're going to continue working with Burbank and Glendale on their longer-term requirements and the balancing authority obligations. But what we're seeking today is your support to move forward on this cost of service. It doesn't really change. It's a reduction across the board on almost all of our services we're proposing to offer. Along with it are putting forward a standardized large generator interconnection agreement and a large generator interconnection procedure. And those will assist us as more renewable projects want to interconnect to use our system. They'll be able to do so in the future under a standardized contract. Today, we bring each one of those contracts independently through the board and through City Council. We're seeking a delegation of authority that we would have that ability to approve them here and no further review by City Council because it's going to be a standardized agreement. And so with this, those are all posted on our website. They're available for review. I would like at this point John Dennis and Dennis Obiang to maybe go through a little bit more on the stakeholder process. It was more extensive. I will say it was also mischaracterized. The Glendale Water and Power did issue a CPRA, California Public Records Act, up front. We asked them to withdraw it and go through the formal stakeholder process with us. And at the end, they reissued that to us. And through that process, we've provided the documents they've sought. There were other parties. They had the opportunity to go through. The way we held the process is we took all questions in. We posted all questions from all parties. We posted responses of all questions from any party you could see. And so we tried to be fair and equitable in that and then held the stakeholder. But
Can I just ask you two other questions? You mentioned that we've retained Van Ness Feldman. I've dealt with them extensively. They're obviously as good of a firm as there is in terms of FERC-related issues. They feel that we're okay under FERC guidelines?
I would ask Cindy Driscoll, City Attorney, to come up and report on that, or maybe Joe, if you...
The short answer would be yes.
And just to understand for my own, add to my own understanding, in terms of being concerned about long-term predictability for our users, I take it this is transmission service when available. So is there, how does one know how much transmission availability there will be in any event?
So the transmission availability is posted in real time, so it's based on our load, our usage. So if we're not using it at any one time, it's posted and made available. We do keep a reserved transmission in case of emergency for certain paths in case, say, our Apex plant isn't operating, but we know we might need it. There's a reservation for that transmission. But all excess is then posted daily, and it's available to the parties to review and determine the price and the terms under which they might want to procure that.
But in terms of the argument that one of the municipalities raised, that we're about to vote on longer-term agreements, those are for transmission lines that we know are going to, transmission availability that we know will be available over a longer period of time, whereas this transmission availability is uncertain. Is that correct?
Yes, the renewable projects you're about to vote on are meant to feed into a new transmission line that's being built. It's being built to bring renewable energy into the city of Los Angeles, again, being built for native load. And so
but that's not based on excess transmission. It may or may not.
Those projects are not being brought to you today to move through what we would consider excess transmission today.
Okay.
Okay, John Dennis, I'm the Director of Power System Planning and Development, and just to give you a couple quick highlights on the public process, the open process for this. Back on March 5th, 2013, the Power System did a briefing on this to prepare the board to communicate these efforts that were going to happen on the process, the stakeholder process. And then on August 26th, we provided public notice and we released a draft updated OAT on the public open access same-time information system website. Stakeholders were given an opportunity to submit the questions and comments until October 7th of 2013. On November 15th, we hosted an in-person stakeholder meeting with webinar access in which all of our customers or potential customers were invited to attend. We addressed many of the questions orally. The participants had additional opportunity to ask and submit questions, and so this was an open process for them. And following the stakeholder meeting, additional time was provided for stakeholders to request clarification or to submit additional questions, including an offer to all stakeholders to access and review the OAT cost of service study model on site with assistance from financial services. So we made that process available. A copy of our cost of service study for the transmission and generation functions that supports all of this rate structure was provided to the stakeholders who requested it, and the financial statements were made available. Both were used by the consultant to establish the proposed and reduced transmission and ancillary services rates. So our third party also used those to review this and to see that it was consistent with the FERC process and the rate setting. And then on December 2nd, we posted on our OASIS website all those details, including but not limited to our responses to all the questions and comments that were received from all the stakeholders. And this information is currently posted on our website, and it remains available for public review. We believe that this stakeholder process was a transparent, was a very meaningful opportunity for the stakeholders to question and understand the nature of the revisions to the OAT. And with that, Randy, I don't know if you have anything else.
I think we would seek your approval, and again, we'll make a commitment that we're going to continue working with both the cities of Glendale and Burbank. They are partners with us in transmission, in generation. They're in the balancing authority. That's where we have issues that we need to resolve, but we believe these costs are the cost, and they should move forward for the benefit of all the balance of customers that are waiting to get the relief to utilize our transmission system. And so those customers that currently use this will see that relief, and we think we'll also get greater usage of our excess transmission. It'll make us more competitive for those parties that use it today, and it'd be our objective to bring in additional revenue for our ratepayers utilizing that transmission.
Commissioners have questions or comments? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second? Those in favor?
Aye.
It's approved. Thank you. Item 16, LADWP relicensing process agreement number BP 13062 with California Department of Water Resources for the South State Water Project Hydropower Project number 2426, including Castaic Power Plant, and amendment number 5 to contract number 10099 for cooperative development, West Brand, California Aqueduct.
I'll go ahead and introduce this particular, or this agreement. This is an agreement jointly with Department of Water Resources concerning Federal Energy Regulatory Commission relicensing activity. Just like the previous one, there are federal rules regarding licensing of certain hydroelectric facilities. Castaic Power Plant is our only facility that currently has that obligation under the FERC license. We initially received the license for the project when it was built, and everybody assumed, 50 years was a long time. Well, we're coming up to that point in time where it has to be renewed. It wasn't contemplated in the initial agreement with Department of Water Resources to renew the license and the cost associated with how that would happen. So what's before you today is an amendment to an existing agreement and putting forward a cost-sharing agreement that would allow us to share in those costs for relicensing. It would outline the responsibilities of the two different utilities and how we would approach the process and the approval of agreements going forward. It does delegate authority down to management to be able to make some decisions. The vast majority of the infrastructure under this license is owned and operated solely by the state of California, and DWP, at least the power side, is not party to that. But because it's one license, we needed to figure out a way how we could jointly participate in both the relicensing process and the funding. And so that is what is before you today. The other thing we do is we amend the existing contract so we would have the benefits of our operating agreement with DWR through the term of whatever a new FERC license would be. We're seeking in our application going forward a 50-year renewal. So that'll bring us up to 2072. So this wouldn't expire till 2072, and that is one revision in the existing agreement. We just needed to align the date that if we're going to make this kind of capital investment in doing the studies and applying for the license and seeking that license, that we would enjoy the benefits, or our ratepayers would enjoy the benefits out through the full term of that license. And so with that, we would take any questions.
I've never looked at a proposal so far that lasts to 2072. Expect you to be around to negotiate the renewal, Randy.
Well, we chose our youngest engineer that we could find to be the project manager in this process, because we did need someone who was going to be around for at least a while that would remember what took place.
Reassuring. Questions? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
It's approved. We are going to defer item 17. I move to defer item 17. Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
It's deferred. Item 18, LADWP 50 megawatt Beacon Solar Project Power Purchase Agreement, numbers BP 14012 with Hecate Energy.
Commissioners, my name is Mike Webster. I'm Assistant Director of Power System Planning and Development. And if it's your pleasure, we'd like to address items 18 and 19 together, if you don't mind, in this discussion.
Good.
So 2 weeks ago, we briefed you on a comprehensive strategy to help fill the gap in renewable energy for both the second and the third compliance periods to meet state law, mandated requirements for RPS. The map shows really there's 3 projects on there, but we're only going to be talking today about 2 projects on the Beacon site, sites 1 through 5. Both of the projects we're going to talk about is on land that DWP owns, the Beacon site. So let's talk about the Beacon 50. It's item number 18. 12 developers responded to the RFP. Staff is recommending Hecate Energy, LLC, as the developer based on a very comprehensive evaluation. We ranked the pricing, we ranked developer experience, contract terms and conditions in a comprehensive process that resulted in this recommendation. The price for the power purchase agreement is a fixed price over 25 years. It is $52.61 a megawatt hour. The average annual cost is $6.4 million, and it totals $159 million over the 25 years. Now, the location is site number 4 right here. It is sized for at least 50 megawatts, and because of the strategic location of this project, it connects directly into the Beacon Station. The fact that we have a cluster of projects in this area, we have the Pine Tree Wind Farm, we have the Pine Tree Solar, we have other projects that will be coming to you for consideration in the future. And it is really in our interest of our ratepayers to own and operate projects for the long term. We just talked about Castaic for 100 years. So we think about renewables in the same way. So all of these projects have a buyout provision so that we can step in and take ownership of those projects. Now, this particular project replaces a project that was originally planned for DWP to build and own and maintain. However, DWP is not a taxable entity. We could not benefit easily from the investment tax credits or the accelerated depreciation. So we felt it would be best if we did a PPA so some of these benefits could be passed on to our ratepayers. And because of the location, it really is not a conducive project for training our utility pre-craft trainees for future work at DWP. So we converted this to the PPA with the options to own. And so before you are 4 agreements: the PPA, the purchase option, the interconnection agreement, as well as the ground lease. So the Beacon Bundle project, this is item number 19. Now, this is a very exciting project for DWP staff and the city. So this is a combination of utility scale development consistent with the strategy we talked about above, but bundled with that is a commitment to build local energy here in the city of Los Angeles to round out our 150 megawatt feed-in tariff program. So by doing this utility scale project, these developers are making a commitment to build at least 50 megawatts inside the city of Los Angeles. And so it really demonstrates this commitment to all developers that what we care about as a city is economic development, jobs, as well as complying with the RPS. So we had 23 developers respond to the RFP. 2 developers were selected, Hecate Energy as well as Sun Edison. They're shown as Sun E in your board letter. So it is recommended that we award Sun Edison 2 sites, sites number 2 and 5, and Hecate for sites 1 and 3. So I'm going to step through the sites just to so you can have a summary. So you can see all the sites to my left, your right. So site 1 goes to Hecate for 56 megawatts. For a price of $52.61 a megawatt hour, and that's over a 25-year term for a total of $176 million. Now, they are also required to build 14 megawatts locally at a price of $117.39 per megawatt hour. Now, this is for 20 years. To be consistent with all the other feed-in tariff term is 20 years, and so the total is $58 million. Site number 2, we recommend award to Sun Edison. It is for 48 megawatts for a price of $58.86 per megawatt hour over the 25-year term. Totals $136 million. And they are required to build 12 megawatts locally at a price of $135 a megawatt hour for 20 years and a total of $57 million. Site 3, recommend to Hecate for 56 megawatts. The price is $51.97 over the 25 years for a total of $176 million, and they build another 14 megawatts locally at $117.39. And then finally, Site 5, recommended to Sun Edison for 40 megawatts. It's $59.85 and a total of $139 million, and they're required to build an additional 10 megawatts locally. So we'll have 200 megawatts utility scale and 50 megawatts locally.
Excuse me, how much was the 10 megawatts to be built?
10 megawatts total was $48 million at a price of $135 a megawatt hour for Site 5.
Thank you.
135 per megawatt hour, or 13.5 cents per kilowatt hour.
Why did we choose a fixed price for this long of a term?
Well, many of our PPAs in the past, as well as contemplated in the future, is fixed price because it really provides a hedge when we're looking at our fuel and purchase power budget. You can hedge with electricity, you can hedge with natural gas. So by fixing the price, it gives us this long-term hedge against price movement in the future.
What if prices go down?
Well, any PPA that we've offered or have looked at have had either two options. A fixed price, because they have to basically have a revenue stream that would allow them to finance to pay for the capitalization of the project. So one strategy has been a fixed price, or two, they start with a lower price initially, and then there's an escalation of 1 to 1.5% every single year during the life of the PPA.
I don't know much about how this works, but I know that one of the criticisms of our FIT program, coming from the ratepayer advocate among others, has been that that it's priced too high, if I understand it correctly, and that we're paying too much, and that solar prices are dropping. And so I may not be understanding this exactly right, but it was my understanding that given the maturing of the solar industry, the price of solar may drop. But I may have this upside down.
Yeah, if I could, just quickly. So these projects are very capital intensive upfront. The longer term, over the period of operations, the O&M costs are relatively low in comparison.
I see. So this is for capital, and
so these costs. When the developer completes the construction financing piece and gets the long-term financing, the bulk of the expense is right up front because you're building all the panels, you've purchased all the equipment, you have it already. But the maintenance piece is not a big one in this scenario. And we have found over the last couple of years in doing the renewables that because our cost of money was relatively low, instead of doing this escalator piece, we were better off long term, as Mike's pointed out, in kind of hedging that cost risk and probably just paying a little bit more on the front end, but having it levelized over a long period, because our ratepayers for the 20 years or 25 years for the desert projects are going to have stability.
So this doesn't really relate to the price of the solar delivery itself. It's
no, because once you buy it, you've bought it up front, you've put the capital dollars out. So if 3 years from now a new technology comes about, it's too late. You've already, this project is built and paid for.
Okay.
And so there's 5 agreements before you, the PPA and the purchase option, the interconnection and ground lease. But on these projects, we add the competitive offer power purchase agreement as a 5th agreement. And so in summary, these projects are much less than what we had in our integrated resource plan or the financial plan that's approved. The prices are much better than we had expected. And in total, these costs will be about 25 cents a month for our average retail customer in additional costs.
I have one other question, and I've discussed this already with Randy, but I'd like to raise it because it's come up and I'd like to have it addressed. Outsiders have suggested that we're taking a risk on companies that don't have that much experience in building projects of this size. Can you address that?
So both companies have experience building projects of this size, and that was one of the main criteria that we were looking at when we were looking at non-price criteria, is could they deliver? And both companies have experience not only in the United States but worldwide.
Okay.
Yeah, I think in the future that would be helpful. I also had that question in mind because you state that you received 12 bids to review. However, unlike other items that are agendized, it really didn't go into the decision making as to why you chose this company. All it said was, we received 12 bids, we've never done business with this company before. It didn't really talk about their experience worldwide, case studies. So in the future, I find that to be helpful. And is it a locally based company? Were there locally based companies that you were considering? I think that background's helpful.
And we would be happy to put that in board packages in the future, because it's just a transposition of data that we did with purchasing and bring it in summary form. So absolutely, we'll do that.
Other questions or comments?
Yeah, Mike, I want to thank you, by the way, because you've been under a lot of pressure, heat, everything to get this to market, and I think that you and your staff have done a fabulous job of balancing a lot of interests. And this is not going to be followed by a but, you know, that is my...
There was. Okay, we're ready. We're ready.
Spoken like a true lawyer. And so I really want to thank you for that. My question related more to the local component. Is it geographically related to, when you say local, does it mean LA City or does it mean LA County?
It absolutely means LA City. It has to be on our customer's property.
Okay, great. And is there a time frame over which people have to put? I haven't read every single detail of these contracts.
Yes, there is a time frame, and I'm going to just flip to a page. But there are requirements, because what we wanted to ensure of, thank you. What we wanted to ensure is that the developers weren't working to get the utility scale, and then really weren't terribly committed to the local piece, and then went by the wayside. So we have performance security on the local piece, and we wanted to make sure it wasn't. They didn't wait till the very bitter end to deploy it. So the first third is required to be built by June 15. 2015. So 1/3 of their commitment. So if it was 28 megawatts, 1/3 by June of next year, which is why timing is very critical on this project. The next third in March of 2016, and the last third by December 31st, 2016. So they have to demonstrate those milestones in the contract.
Just one other. As I said, I'm really supportive. I'm supportive of really amping up solar, and I think you've done a great job. I'd also like to see, if possible, over the next several tranches of whatever this is just some attention paid to making sure that the developers know that as these local projects go forward, it's important that the beneficiaries of the projects that we think about locations where local nonprofits that own buildings or other entities that we know the money will be invested back into the immediate community be placed, not a hard priority, but be given some additional consideration. So that's more not for this, but in the future. That's just my only comment, because I think that it's very worthy that you're having the money go back in, but I think that we can get even more multiplier effects by just looking at some of those other issues related to making sure that not just the construction piece, but whoever the beneficiaries are, the building owners or whatever, they're actually physically in LA as well in terms of the services that they provide. So thank you. Really much appreciate the effort that you put into it, you and your staff.
Thank you.
Commissioner Noonan.
Thank you. I just wanted to follow up on the timeline and the project dates that have been outlined for them to meet. In the event that they don't meet those timelines, what kind of penalty is enforced?
Okay, so I'm going to have Randy Krager, who is managing all the negotiations on that, but some of their performance security will be at risk. So, Randy, do you have that?
Yeah, so for both the COPA and the PPA, they have separate performance security. So if they don't proceed with this first third, we can actually enforce liquidated damages on them, and then they have the second third that they could make that. If they don't make that up in the second third, they lose their whole performance security, and then we can replace them with another vendor, another local vendor.
Thank you.
Dr. Pickle?
I support approval of this, but I'd like to make some specific comments about the results. If you take a look at the table on page 3 of the report, it lists the PPA prices in the center column for the utility scale projects at Beacon. These prices are very attractive in the solar business, but it helps to understand that DWP has spent money acquiring this site and preparing this site. By our estimate, that additional cost is between 1 and 2 cents, tending toward the low 1 cent range. So even with that adder onto this, these prices are attractive in terms of PPA prices for utility scale solar in this part of the U.S. For the co-PPAs, or also called the FIT 50, this is the first time that we have bid, subject to market conditions, FIT scale projects. And these are the results of competitive bids. My number one complaint about the FIT 100 program, not this program, is that it's not competitively bid. This is the results of competitive bidding. While I'd like lower prices, the next question in that process, my other concern over FIT overall, is do we need to do in-basin solar when central station solar is so much cheaper? That's a policy decision, but there are also some legal requirements that we'll comment on next time. But it's good to see competitively bid FIT projects, and it looks like the average price of these is about 12.5 cents a kilowatt hour for the FIT component.
Other questions or comments on either 18 or 19? Is there a motion on item 18?
So moved.
Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's approved. Is there a motion on item 19?
So moved.
Those in favor?
Aye.
They're both approved. Thank you very much. Water System Monthly Report.
I have nothing in addition to the printed report that's before you.
Power System Monthly Report.
I as well have nothing in addition to report. I will take this opportunity, though, just to make you aware we're seeing substantial wait times in the call center, and I just wanted to make you aware of that. And it's primarily related, this is the busiest time of the year every year. It's related to all of the college students going away and shutting off or terminating service. So that just brings up the volume. And then we did kick off our late payment rebate process yesterday. And so we're hitting it really hard today as well. We started that residential collections and severance. So volume is up. You might hear about it. I wanted to keep you aware. We'll continue to provide you feedback and monitor that, as well as kind of feather our activities to ensure that it doesn't get too burdensome for the ratepayers that are trying to get through to us.
Have we been able to add more people to the telephone lines?
The 50 emergency are now all working on the phone lines, and we've completed now the interview process and job offers for the permanent 50, but we don't expect they'll be working on the floor until sometime in September, because they have to still be vetted through the formal city process, and then they'll start their training program.
And how long do you expect these long wait times to last? That you say are seasonal.
This is typically the worst of the year that we see. We see another big bump after Labor Day weekend, when students are all coming back and initiating service throughout the city. So that's typically when we see them. But we expect we will see long call wait times through the month of June. For any folks listening out there, we're seeing good availability between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m., and we're seeing it in the evening hours from about 5 to 7 as well. We'll try to provide more information and feedback through both our website and our outreach on times that we have available that are lower peak times.
I just wanted to go back to the water report for one moment. There was one statistic that I read that was really astounding. It states that the total amount of water conserved this month is enough to fill the Rose Bowl over 23 times. I think we need to take this opportunity to applaud our ratepayers. And I also want to commend your division for working with the MTA to advertise the reminder of conserving water. It obviously seems to be making a great difference. So.
Thank you.
Other comments, questions on either of these reports? Council, what magic words do you have to send us into closed session?
The same magic words, sir. The board shall publicly report any action taken in closed session and the vote or abstention of every member present thereon in accordance with Section 54-957.1 in the California Government.
We will recess for a few minutes and then go into closed session.